The Heritage Softail Classic. This is what we're looking at today, boys. This is a 2018. We're about to try this sucker out. All right, so let's talk about some of the basic specs, get the boring stuff out of the way, and then we can get to some of the more exciting parts about this bike. So you got a 26.3 inch seat height, 728 pounds, and a 5-gallon tank and a Softail frame. So that weight is significantly lighter, obviously, than your big touring motorcycles, right? You're gonna come in, 120, 130, 150 pounds maybe, depending on the type of touring bike you have, but this one has those same capabilities. Although it may be slightly neutered compared to the big touring machines, you still can do quite a bit of riding on a bike like this. Before we start, big thanks to American Biker here in Latson, South Carolina for letting me come out and give you my honest opinion on this motorcycle. If you need something like a used Harley, a new Indian, Ravaco, Slingshot, ATV, whatever, come talk to Rob at American Biker. Again, big thanks to these guys for letting me come out and take a look at this bike. We have, of course, our cycle button right here, high beam, low beam, horn, beep, beep. We have our passing lamp button right there. We're going to keep those on. Turn signal, left, right, starter button, boom, cruise control. We have a single instrument cluster here, fuel level gauge, neutral light, everything is contained right here. 5-gallon tank. So let's look at some of the features that the Heritage Classic has. Of course, it is Heritage, so it's got a classic look with some modern conveniences wrapped into it. Now, I did review the original Heritage Classic with the 107 just last year, so I'll make sure I leave a card to that video so y'all can check it out. You got a single disc up front, you got that big fender that covers most of the tire, spoke wheel. You do have the daymakers out front, so essentially you have the big headlight and then the 2 auxiliary lamps up there. You have incandescent turn signals though, not only in the front, but in the rear. I've talked about this a lot. We'll talk about that again in the video. What's cool is whoever had this bike, I think these are aftermarket bars. I'm fairly certain, but the original Heritage has a very comfortable setup. So if you're somebody short like me, 5'7", sitting in the saddle, I can flat foot the bike. My arms are not completely stretched out. This is actually a really comfortable setup. I may just pull these bars back if it was something, that I owned, but still it's really nice. And it's easy to do that. You don't have a fairing or anything to get in the way here. You unloosen your riser clamp bolts, you position it where you want, boom, you're good to go. One thing I will tell you is the seat is super comfortable. The position I'm in, my legs are out in front of me, as you can see on the floorboards. My arms are not fully stretched out, even with these bars in the position that they're in. This is actually a nice setup. You have one dummy cap here and then the other one for your fuel, 5-gallon tank. All of your instrumentation is right here. We'll talk about more of that stuff on the road, including some of your controls and stuff. Nice comfortable seat for you as the rider and a decent passenger pillion for your passenger. And so while a lot of the Softail models do come with some accolades for your passenger, I'd say this is amongst one of the best. You do have basically standard pegs for your passenger, and you get nice floorboards here in the front for you. 114 engine, of course. So as far as the exhaust, typically you're going to have 2 into 2 on the one side, but the previous owner put a Bassani exhaust system on here. High flow intake right there, and then of course we do have leather wrapped, hardened and sealed saddlebags. When it comes to the aesthetic of a bike, some of them work really well without saddlebags, some of them look really good with hard saddlebags, and some of them, very few in my opinion, look good with leather bags. This is one of them. This and the Super Chief Limited are 2 bikes that I absolutely think the leather bags fit perfectly on. Coming around to the rear, you got a nice big full fender here, and you get incandescents. Again, Harley's probably has 100,000 of these things. They are going to use until they're all sold out. They will not take a loss on their incandescent bulbs. And yes, even on the 2023s, they still put this piece of junk on a $22,000 motorcycle. It drives me absolutely nuts, but that's what we have, and that's why we have Custom Dynamics. So there you go. That would be my first website I would go to if I were to buy a bike like this, which typically if you're going to buy any Harley, you're going to have to upgrade to some kind of LEDs because Harley. Now, I thought they used to put heel shifters on these bikes. Maybe the previous owner took it off, or maybe they just don't come with them. I know the new bikes don't have the heel shifters. It's been like that for a year or two now. But regardless, I think we've covered the basics of it. Now let's get it on the road, because one thing I didn't do last year is I did not take this bike on the interstate. So it's hard to call something the ultimate touring softail, or to see the capabilities of this, you know, mid-touring machine, if you will, without taking it on the interstate, because that's where you're going to be doing a lot of riding if you're actually touring. So let's take it out there, let's take it on the streets and see how it does at higher speeds.
Got some aftermarket bars on here. This one is used, but man, slightly. 4,000 miles? That's quite a stretch. It's quite a stretch there, boys. And so you may be thinking, man, this is a 2018. You're way behind. Well, fortunately, not much has changed with these bikes over the past few years. I'm going to show you some video of an old one, actually, that American Biker still has in the shop. They've changed, but like I said, not a whole lot. And so even the 2023s have a lot of these same features. You know, one thing this bike does really well is giving you the option to have more of a touring type of motorcycle or an around town cruiser. And so that's something that a traditional fairing bike is not going to give you, because you can't just remove the fairing, right? But on this, we could take the windshield off. Now we're going to go on the interstate because I want to see, last year I didn't do that. I want to see how this thing does at higher speeds. Now what's interesting on these bikes is that you get less lean angle than you do on the touring motorcycles. So it's like 27 and 28 between left and right. It's pretty crazy, right? You would think that this bike has way more lean angle, but it does not. Now, what this bike does have is lighter weight than your touring bikes, you know, traditionally have. You know, if you go with something like a street glide or a road glide or even an ultra, you know, you're going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 pounds to 150 pounds more on those bikes. A lot more goes into them, but still you're going to be up there when it comes to the weight of the bike. So I know somebody like my grandfather, right? He's ridden baggers and, you know, heavier bikes for a long time. He wanted something lighter, so he went with a Road King Special, you know. So if you're trying to get away from big heavy touring bikes but you still want to do touring, this could be a good option. So we're just going 50 right now, 50-ish, and I'm not getting a whole lot of wind. What I'm getting is a little bit of turbulence right here in the cockpit, if you will. Let's see if we can find neutral. Kind of a little game you got to play with all Harleys. How quickly can I find neutral? Nice floorboards there. Looks like he did some things, but overall he kept it stock. You got this leather wrapped piece right here with these studs, and you know, that's just something that comes on these Heritage. You know, it's one of those bikes where you could change a lot about it, or you could pretty much keep it the way it is. I don't want to get too far off topic, but it is one of those bikes that's set up pretty well from the factory, right? You know, where other bikes you gotta do the handlebars, you have to do certain things to make it comfortable. This is
the ultimate comfort in softail cruisers, touring, whatever you want to call it. Now, going back to who I think this bike is for, if you're bike nights, if you like to go on shorter rides, even some long distance, you know, touring, you could do it on this bike, you know, depending on what your comfort level is on something like this. There's no way I would say, oh, that's unreasonable to think somebody would take a long distance trip on a bike like this. You outfit this thing with some what are they? I think they're made by Kuryakin. Get some of those speakers, man, put those things right here on the bar. There you go. They're waterproof and all that, so that would be a reasonable thing to do. You know, maybe you live a couple of hours from the mountains and you want to take this bike over there. Now, again, it's got less lean angle, which is insane to me. I guess I don't quite understand why a bike like this would have less lean angle. Obviously, less ground clearance and, you know, all that kind of stuff works into it. You would hope a bike like this that's super nimble and easy to kind of whip around would have more lean angle, right? And so I know that coming from, you know, Tennessee and doing some of those switchback roads and the Rattler and all that, you're pushing the limits. You know, if you practice and, you know, you're practicing U-turns and stuff like that, you're going to have less ground clearance there. So that is something that you maybe want to keep in mind depending upon the riding that you're doing. Now, well, most people don't buy a Harley to lean it over and get a knee down and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that you can't lean this bike and have a good time with it. You know, I just, man, you know, you would hope it would at least match the touring bike's capability. 32 degrees, somewhere in there. But before I call this thing, like, you know, the best touring softail out there, we got to get it on the interstate. Up to 80 miles an hour. We got a 6th gear we can get into. Oh yeah, get this nice little wind tunnel kind of right in here. It's a little bit of pushing and pulling, just a little bit, man. It wants to move the bike from one side to the other, but I can generally hold a pretty good line. The thing you'll notice, like, if I were doing this over an extended period of time though, you know, this would start to get fatigued. And so that's kind of what I'm talking about when I say having all that wind in your chest. It's not necessarily in your chest, it's just continuously kind of moving the bike back and forth, you know, like that. That's kind of how I feel like the air, you know, moves. It moves like in through here, and it just continuously does that. But if you need to get up, man, this bike is ready. It is a torquey machine, dude. Let's see, let's back it off to 75. Let's see. Oh yeah. Interesting. Yeah, 70, 75, it's actually smoother. Definitely smooths out. Nice, yeah, that's one thing I don't like. You gotta constantly be looking down, looking up. Not a fan of that at all. I mean, I say constantly, but anytime you want to check your speed, you know, or see, you know, lights on the dash or anything, you got to do this and then back up. Now, of course, this is a part of the look of the bike, right? It's a part of that softail aesthetic. So if you take that away and you put something like here, you know, it's going to change the look of the bike. It would be more useful to have it here, but again, do you want to change the aesthetics? I don't know. You know, how often are you looking at this is, you know, highly dependent upon who you are. I got a buddy that never looks at his
speedometer. every time we ride, at least in his motorcycle. In his truck he doesn't do that. I don't know if I would remove that windshield. I don't think I would. I think I like the look of it on this bike. But then again, I like how it's kind of blacked out at the bottom. You know, if it was you know, smoked all the way up, that thing looks pretty good actually. I like the way it looks now, honestly. Alright, we got some information to go off of. Let's get this thing back at the shop here, talk about it. Here, can we find neutral? Oh, there we go. I don't like these kickstands, by the way. They have very little spring tension to take them to the position they want to be. They're really short. I had one on the Lowrider S. I don't like it. Let me talk about the things that I do like. First of all, I like the aesthetics of this bike. I like the windshield. I kind of hate this chrome strip and stuff that they have on there. Again, it's all blacked out. I hate this chrome in here. I would get rid of all that. But I do like the Daymakers. They do a nice job. Again, it's a Heritage Classic, but why the hell do they put all this chrome on here? Now, the 2023s may be different as far as the blacked out with the 114. So I'll have to look at that. Got a big old fender up front there. Spoke wheels look good on this bike. It's one of the few bikes like the somebody just had one up here, Super Chief Limited, which we've done a review on, where it actually looks better with leather bags. It fits the bike. So that's really cool. They're lockable, of course, which is a good thing. You got a nice cushion here for your honey, nice cushion for yourself. The studs are kind of ugly, kind of girly. I mean, if you're a girl, then you might like that. But the seat is comfortable. So hell, I'd probably change the seat too. Whatever. The single pipe is something that they do on the Heritage Classic. I like the look of the tank. The aesthetics of the bike are really sexy, dude, in my opinion. But again, it would be a second bike. Let me talk about what I don't like though. This should have LEDs, no question about it. $22,000 bike new. This should have LEDs, man. That's kind of ridiculous. They're still doing that, and they do it up here as well with the incandescents. Not here, but the turn signals. You know, good lighting, man. Good lighting. If I were to get something like this, Custom Dynamics would probably be my first go-to. Also like these handlebars. Again, I would just push them back just a little bit, just to give me a little bit more leverage. I'm a little bit shorter too, so there's that, but I do like this setup. And from what I remember, it's still the ultimate comfort in the Softail lineup, right? That might be the name of the video. I don't know. That's pretty good. But you get storage. You get a sexy looking classic bike with modern conveniences. Of course, the M8 114 is pretty awesome. On the flip side of that, of course, we talked about the incandescents, which is crap. These are much easier to break into. There is hard plastic, of course, but any good Kershaw or Spyderco knife, I'm sure, can get through that. Or if somebody has some tools, you know, just zip it out and take all your crap. So I like the look of them. They are lockable. They are a slight deterrent, but again, they're not going to do as good as hard bags. But you could say that about hard bags too. I mean, hell, you could, you know, somebody get a freaking Sawzall and, you know, just cut them out. I don't know. Anyways, the places where they put all this chrome, I get it on the 107 with chrome, but on this should all be changed, man. You know what I mean? Chrome mirrors. I'm fairly certain that's the way this bike comes. The previous owner didn't do that stuff, right? You need some chrome, not really chrome, but satin, I think, is a better look to kind of break it up here and there, but it's too much chrome for this bike. And so that's where I'm at with it, man. Do you think this is the ultimate Softail, or is there one that you actually like better than the Heritage Classic? Do you like the looks? Do you like the aesthetics? Do you have a Heritage Classic? What do you like? What don't you like? Whatever you want to say about this motorcycle. Maybe you like the video, maybe you hate the video. Let me know down below. If you like what I do and you want to support us, man, all you got to do is drop me a sub.
like the video. Check out one of the other videos I got somewhere up in here where I did the original Heritage, if you want to check that out. Also, you can join us on Patreon or join the channel, get some cool benefits there as well. Big thanks to every single one of you. See you in the next one, and as always, hold them down.